wall graphics we did for Sadie's room. So we used Oracal 631 and we used the Oracal brand HT55 transfer tape to put this on. So the tools that we used just a squeegee, we used painter's tape, scissors, tape measure, level to get everything level, and then we used a few weeding tools to help us do some vinyl repair, X-Acto knife, tweezer, burnishing tool for after we got the graphics installed. So a couple things to note about this. This was a very challenging installation. We cut the graphics and applied the transfer tape. That was probably 2 to 3 months ago, and so I'm just wondering if potentially it was okay to let the graphics sit that long. The transfer tape laid on the material fine. There was no tunneling whatsoever, but we did leave them together for a long time. So you'll see in the video when we put the graphics on, before we put the graphics on, we washed the wall to make sure it's nice and clean. But the application itself went extremely slow. And so when people are installing vinyl graphics, they're installing on all kinds of walls, especially on inside walls. If you'll see in the video that this wall has a lot of texture, so it's very bumpy. And that means that when the vinyl is trying to adhere to the surface, it's only able to adhere to the parts of the wall that are sticking out, the pebbly parts. So you don't get adhesion all down in those little valleys and rifts in between the pebbles. And so that means that it's much harder for it to adhere and go a lot slower. The other challenge was that in this particular font we did, you notice we have a lot of very thin sections of the letters. And so when you're applying graphics that are very, very thin, there's not a lot of surface area of adhesive to stick to. So for instance, if all the letters were this thick, like in the D here or the S, this installation would have gone relatively quickly. But because you had a lot of little, on the fonts, you have a lot of little serifs like this, we had to go extremely slow. But in the end, with patience, we were able to get this perfect, so it looks like a perfect installation, even though we had to go very slow. The other thing is that we showed in the video is, there were a few pieces of letter, you can't even see them, they're here, I'm not even sure where they are, but it came off. And so we were able to go back with some of these tools and just perform small surgery on the vinyl and put the vinyl back together. So that's something to keep in mind when you're doing window graphics or wall graphic installation, is even if it looks like you've made a mistake and a letter is cut or folded on itself or out of place, this vinyl, like the 631, is very forgiving, so you can move it back into place relatively easy.